So up next, we have CEO and founder of CARI Health Incorporated, Patrik Schmidle. Go ahead.
Thank you, Jacob. All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Patrik. I'm the founder and CEO of CARI Health. And the problem that we're solving is medication adherence. And we're doing that with a small wearable monitor. It's about the size of a quarter. Okay. And essentially, this is used to inform personalized dosing and monitor adherence in real time remotely. We're getting ready to do our first in-human studies. We're backed by a group of medtech savvy angel funds, and we're raising $3 million in a second seed round. Conceptually, you can think of our solution as similar to a continuous glucose monitor. And even though our sensor can detect multiple medications, we're going to prove our platform capability first with a medication called methadone, which is used to treat opioid addiction. Why opioid addiction? One, because I had a close family member that struggled with opioids. So it makes me very passionate about making a difference here first. Two, the rise of illicit fentanyl has made the need for new solutions that keep methadone patients in treatment very urgent. Why? Illicit fentanyl is 50 times more potent than heroin. What that means is that somebody that's addicted to fentanyl only has a couple of treatment options left. One of them is methadone, and even though methadone has been used for decades to treat opioid use disorder, there are two major problems that make methadone treatment that's otherwise a safe and efficacious medication problematic. One, it takes too long to get to a therapeutic dose. And typically anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks to get from a starting dose, average starting dose of 40 milligrams to an average therapeutic dose of 120 milligrams due to the high tolerance levels from opioids caused by illicit fentanyl. And then two, once patients are at the therapeutic dose, they then have to go to a clinic almost every day to prove compliance. Yes, almost every day. Those two problems, those two challenges cause very high dropout rates with patients going back to using fentanyl, overdosing, landing in the ER. Mind you, these are all patients, they've decided to leave this cycle of addiction and lead a better life, but it's just so difficult to stay in treatment. They keep getting pulled back. It's a vicious cycle that's difficult to escape. So here's the solution that we've designed to help them escape from this vicious cycle. It's a small wearable monitor that uses a proprietary electrochemical sensor to help clinicians titrate patients to that therapeutic dose more quickly and safely. And then once they're at the therapeutic dose, patients can then use our monitor to demonstrate compliance remotely without the daily clinic visits. That'll dramatically increase the chances that they'll remain in treatment and escape this vicious cycle of fentanyl addiction. One of the reasons it's such a compelling market is it's large and it's growing. There are 3 million people today that are affected by an opioid use disorder. Roughly a third are good candidates for our solution. That makes a $5 billion market today in terms of the TAM. And based on feedback we've received from clinicians, 95% of them said they would prescribe our solution if it existed today, 95%. Similar to continuous glucose monitoring, the business model is based on payer reimbursement, $5,000 per patient per year. And because it's so expensive when patients drop out of treatment, the business case for payers is very compelling to reimburse us. It's a very unique market. There are only about 2,000 clinics that are authorized to administer methadone. And 70% of them are served by MedStat Supplies, who is a distributor and who we already have an LOI with. The other thing that's unique is that there's a lot of consolidation that's happening. You see the logos here. These 7 companies run roughly 600 of the clinics, of the 2,000 clinics. The reason that you see CMS highlighted here is because we have several initiatives ongoing with them, and their chief scientific officer, Dr. Sherrick, is on our advisory board. Just to put this into context, it takes roughly 20,000 patients for CARI Health to generate $100 million worth of annual revenues. That's 10%, a little bit more than 10% of the 200,000 patients that these 6 companies serve. Clearly, methadone monitoring is the right beachhead market for us to pursue. But you're probably asking yourself, this works for methadone, does it also work for other medications? The answer is yes, and here's how. There's an electrochemical assay, it's proprietary, that gets coated on these tiny little needles, okay? And you can touch them here, I'm gonna give them to you. You can touch and feel them. They get coated on these tiny little microneedles, and via oxidation, that assay can then detect various analytes, including methadone. The sensor then sends the information via low power Bluetooth to the app, from there it goes to the cloud, then to key stakeholders, okay? The only two components that need to be modified for other medications are the assay that goes on the needles and the client-facing app. We first detected the need to monitor methadone back in 2022. Since then, we've migrated the chemistry from screen print electrodes to wire sensors to microneedles, which is where we are today. And you can see how tiny this looks on a human. And once we conduct our first in human studies, which is what we're raising this round for, we will then convert this to a wearable version that we will go to market with. There is a significant market to monitor methadone compliance already. Companies like Sonara and Berkshire provide solutions today, but they're only focused on adherence. Our solution is unique because it monitors adherence as well as informs personalized dosing. It's also pain-free, convenient, and real-time. Now you'll see the CGMs here on the right, Abbott and Dexcom. They do provide real-time monitoring of glucose, but their solution is not adaptable to either methadone or other small molecule medications. So far, we've been very capital efficient, primarily thanks to non-dilutive grant funding. We also raised a seed round from medtech savvy angel funds like SDAC, New Fund, and the Cove. And we used those funds judiciously to build a foundation for the first in human studies that we're about to conduct later this year. This will get us to our first major inflection point. That'll be followed by regulatory clearance, which is the second major inflection point. Cash flow positive, the third, and 100 million plus in revenues, the fourth. Now, you're clearly aware that many device companies are acquired after regulatory clearance here. We'll have that opportunity as well, but our exit will be much more compelling the further that we get to the right. To accomplish this, we've assembled a team of experts in medtech, chemistry, and engineering with a track record of resilience and execution. As you can see from the logos, here, Dexcom, Qualcomm, et cetera, BioLink, we are leaning heavily on folks that have done this before, primarily in the glucose space. Personally, I've been part of multiple exits, so together we have the right team to make this a reality. To fill our gaps on the clinical, regulatory, commercial side, we've built a heavyweight advisory board. And I want to especially highlight Brenda Davis. She's been a methadone patient for 27 years. And she's a patient advocate and embodies our sort of patient centricity DNA, if you will. It's notoriously difficult to predict exits, timing of them, size of them, but we'll have opportunities at each one of the inflection points that we're managing towards. Each one of these logos that you see here have compelling reasons to want to purchase us. And based on the market opportunity with methadone plus the additional analytes, we expect that we'll fall somewhere in between InTouch and biotelemetry. So in closing, we're addressing a high unmet market need. We have scalable, proprietary, novel technology and a fantastic team that knows how to execute. In addition, the market is ready to adopt our solution. For you as investors, it's especially exciting because you're supporting a solution that will be life-changing for methadone patients and can make a difference in the opioid epidemic, which is a national crisis. With that, I'm happy to take your questions. Go for it.
I thought that presentation was really timely. Trank is a big problem in the United States right now, and I'm curious for fentanyl. Does the device have any sort of limitations when the individual has other drugs in the system in addition to methadone?
You're talking about interference potentially. So yeah, so there's some some medications like gabapentin that'll exacerbate the levels of methadone. And we'll find out more once we conduct our first in human study, exactly what other medications would potentially interfere. But that is definitely, that's a potential, yeah. Other questions?
You mentioned consolidation within the market for methadone clinics. Do you find that to be a pro or a con in your exit strategy and overall market saturation?
It's definitely a pro, because if you think about it, in the medical device space and the healthcare space, typically you have to build up a huge sales force to reach your market. In this particular case, you need a handful of enterprise sales reps, and you have a third of the market covered, right? So it's much less expensive to reach a larger portion of the market. Yes. It's easier to manage six large, well, not easier. It's more efficient to manage 6 large enterprise accounts than it is to manage 2,000 individual mom and pop shops. Bobby, I'm surprised. Go ahead.
Can you just again talk about what your raise is and the valuation? We really didn't get that from a lot of the other people, but I know they have it. But if you could talk a little bit about that, and then also the runway, where does this exactly take you?
So the raise is $3 million. The pre-money valuation on it is $12 million, and it's on a convertible note. It's kind of like an extension of the original note that we raised. And it will not only get us 18 months of runway to get us through the first in human studies, it'll also get us to then raise a Series A. We've budgeted for 12 months. We think it's, we assume it's going to take 6. We budgeted for 12. But the other thing that's going to happen is that once we get through first in human, it'll activate an SBIR grant that's already been awarded. That's another $2.5 million of non-dilutive funding that goes towards the pivotal study as well as the product conversion to a wearable monitor.
I have a quick question. Hi. So in terms of the app, how much information or how much input is required from the user versus just the measurement from the sensor?
It's a good question. So our first release is going to focus on giving the information to the clinic. So the clinic receives information that the patient has taken the dose, and it allows the clinician to inform their titration strategy. But the initial version will not be released to the patient. Okay, just to reduce the regulatory burden. Over time, we'll add that as a feature. We do know that there's a demand for patients to be able to input their cravings, for example, whether they're tired, whether they're hungry, to be able to then correlate that with medication levels. So we know there's a demand there. We know there's a benefit to the patients, but with the initial release, we want to get through FDA clearance as quickly as possible, so the information will only go to the clinic.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you so much, Patrick. That's all the time we have for questions. If you guys have any more questions. Oh.
Just one more question. So what would be the benefit of investing at this round versus a Series A round? It would be attractive to someone with deeper pockets just to go at Series A.
So that's a good question. So there are a couple other microneedle-based companies that have recently gone through first in human studies, and their post first in human study raises moved their valuations to up to $200 million. One is $200 million post money. The other one, it was a $58 million raise. So I'm guessing it's 500 million post money. So you're getting in at a much lower price with a lot more upside than you would if you waited till the Series A.